Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the WNW 161, the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, the 10th of October, 2014, and it's all Ebola all the time. I know you've heard tons about the Ebola situation, and I got to tell you, and I've been reporting on this for a few weeks, and and listen, I've told you the Obama administration has gotten this whole crisis wrong. I mean, from the beginning, just a small chance of somebody coming to the United States who's infected. Wrong. Guy flies into Dallas, from West Africa through Europe into Dallas. Wrong. And if that was the case, the head of Health and Human Services wouldn't be saying, I think there may be more Ebola victims out there. Really? More cases out there? No. Really? Of course there are. The CDC, if it was not really a problem of having a bigger outbreak, a bigger crisis, maybe a pandemic here in America, you wouldn't have the head of the CDC comparing the Ebola crisis to the AIDS crisis. And, this is a big deal, folks. If it wasn't, the IMF wouldn't be already out with a cost estimate to fight this crisis of more than $30 billion right now, where we sit right now. And, they're not making the right moves to combat this. I mean, they've come up with now they're going to be screening. We should have been doing that 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're going to be screening people at airports, which I think we need to do way more. I think they need to have travel bans, and I am not alone. Health professionals say, hey, you need to restrict travel in and out of West Africa. You need to contain this. That's the proper protocol to do so. Then you have a Senator Vitter out of Louisiana, David Vitter, saying that, these screenings at these 5 big major airports, where they take the temperature gun and point it at your head and see if you have a fever or not. He calls these precautions, quote, laughable. Yeah, a lot of folks said it wouldn't have caught the guy that flew into Dallas that died, which is a sad thing. Wouldn't have caught that. But yes, more people are infected. It's going to cost big money. And if this thing gets really underway where people start staying inside and they're not going to go to the store, they're not going to go to the malls, they're not going to go out to eat, they're not going to go to the movies, what do you think that's going to do to the economy? An already weak economy. This is like they ought to be shutting down the quarantine in Africa. They ought to be shutting down or drastically restricting, not let people come into America. Let me see if you have a temperature and not. Oh, you don't have any temperature. Go on, and it's the incubation period is several weeks. I mean, huh? It's like my friend Jim Sinclair at JS Mindset said once, a great quote. This is too stupid to be stupid. It's almost as if they want it to happen. The war with ISIS is going pretty well if you are in the ISIS army. Their numbers are growing by more than 3,000 each and every month. We have this air campaign with no boots on the ground, according to the president, which isn't very robust. It's weak at best, and it isn't effective at all. That's what the generals are telling the president of the United States, and he's not gonna budge on his plan here, or lack of plan, or light plan. I think he slipped several weeks back when he said we can manage the problem. I think that's exactly what he plans to do. He's going to manage, quote unquote, manage the problem. There is a border town on the border of northern Syria and southern Turkey, Kobani, that is getting ready to fall to ISIS. Our government is trying to tell the Turks to get in there and stop them and fight them. They've got tanks on a hill looking down at them, and it looks like ISIS is going to take Kobani, which is a major border town, an important piece of real estate. Turkey is a NATO member, and they're not wanting to do it alone. And, there's all kinds of Kurds. I think the Kurdish population in Turkey is something like 25%, and they're having riots in the streets, and they can't even get their act together to combat anything. We're not making very many bombing runs. Around Kobani, it was like reportedly 14 to stop a crazy, terrorized, mechanized army with our equipment. And it is not going well. And again, the numbers are growing by more than 3,000 fighters a month. And this brings me to my next observation. And I want to start here with Leon Panetta, but there's many more. Leon Panetta, right here. He was a former CIA chief and also head of the Secretary of Defense. And he's out with a new book. And this is the headline on USA Today. And boy, I tell you, it soft pedals, what Panetta has been saying. Panetta stays honest in his presidential how about brutally honest in his presidential critique? And Panetta is a Democrat's Democrat. He is an a Democrat, and he is out in interviews saying he's fearful and the president's not making the right moves, and he didn't have a status of forces agreement in Iraq, and this problem has mushroomed and it's gotten worse under his command, and he basically not saying he's doing a terrible job. And it's not just Panetta. I mean, former President Bill Clinton is trashing the president while he's campaigning for Senator Pryor in Arkansas, a Democrat in trouble, trashing the president. Former President Jimmy Carter trashing Obama about his performance and what he's been doing. From the Ebola crisis to ISIS to all the scandals, the CIA, the Secret Service and the whores, and down south in Central and South America, Cartagena, where that all was allegedly covered up just before election, so they didn't have to deal with it. I mean, and then if you take a look at the individual races, Democrats, whether they're in Congress or running for the Senate, are trashing the president. The Democrats are campaigning saying, we'll stand up to Obama's policies. Excuse me? You'll stand up to the leader of the party, that's the president, Democrats, the president's the top guy in the party. You're going to stand up to the president's policies? You mean the policies that all the Democrats voted for? You mean those policies? I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, you talk about people throwing a sitting president under the bus, Democrats, people of his party throwing him under the bus. Karl Rove, the architect for the Republicans, he could just sit back and go, oh, yeah, what Panetta said. Oh, what Bill Clinton said. Yeah, I agree with Jimmy Carter, what he said. I mean, I've never seen it. I was a young reporter, actually I was working part-time in college when Carter was in office. That never happened. I don't remember this ever happening. I don't think it's ever happened this brutal and this terrible of somebody inside a party criticizing the president of their party, and this many top people doing so is a bad omen for the Democrats. They seem desperate and scared to me they're going to get their what's handed to them in the midterm elections. I don't think that the elections are as close as they say they are. On election day, I think there are going to be many blowouts, and again, I think the Senate flips to the Republican Party, which both parties just take turns ripping us off. But maybe we'll have a little less tyranny under the Republicans. But that's what I think. I think that there's going to be a lot of blowouts come election day with all this. Finally, I want to talk to you about this because this is one of the recurring themes on the site about how, we have a recovery, and then we're, QEing and announcing another QE and more bond buying and, Draghi over in Europe wanting to buy assets, and we have a recovery, but we need to print money. We need to have 0% interest rates. We need to have phony accounting, but we have a recovery. Well, we don't have a recovery. I mean, come on. But here we go again, beaten over the head. And they make you think that the economy is doing better there. Look, the U.S. budget deficit falls to, $486 billion. The 2014 budget deficit falls to $486 billion. Like, that's supposed to be a great thing. I mean, when Bush left office, his budget deficit was $485 billion. But it really doesn't account for the real encumberment if you did real accounting. For example, last year they said the budget deficit was $680 billion, but other people like John Williams at shadowstats.com says, oh, no, it's closer to $6.8 trillion. What we went on the hook for was $6.8 trillion in a single year. I want to say it again, please. Soak that in. We went on the hook for $6.8 trillion, and it's not just John Williams. I mean, even the USA Today reported on this in, 2011? I think 2011 or 2012, where they said, the real encumbrance was $5 trillion. And then they never did any stories like that again. And then you have former White House Budget Director David Stockman on his side saying, it ain't no $1 trillion deficits a year or a $500 billion. We got to roll over, refinance $8 trillion. We need to refinance $8 trillion. So we don't ever intend to pay this back. Let's get real here, okay? We do not ever intend to pay this debt, not in anything resembling the dollar of today. We never intend to pay this debt off, never. We don't. They're not serious about it. They're not going to do it. They're never going to do it. It is completely unsustainable. And every year this goes on, we get closer and closer to this crashing. And that's one other thing I want to kind of close with. Of all the people I talk to, some people say we're going to have inflation. Some people say we're going to have deflation. Some people say the price of gold is going to go way up. Some people say it's going to go way down. But here's what almost everybody says universally. And that is, this is unsustainable, and it's a mathematical certainty we're going to have a crash. Now, what that looks like when it happens, I don't know. But that's what uniformly almost every single guest says. Catherine Austin Fitz says, we're going to have a slow burn. Okay, she's a smart lady too. But then she does say, something could, get off track, and we have all those derivatives, and we could have a meltdown. But almost everybody says that it's not sustainable, that's for sure, and it's a mathematical certainty we're going to have a crash. I mean, look at the stock market. Way up, way down, way up, way down. That's not a confident market to me. That doesn't have any kind of a good feel to it. I mean, you're up 275 points one day and down 275 the next and up the next and then down another 300. Now, at some point, the money printing is either going to stop or stop working. I think it'll just stop working. I really do. And that's what, Charles Nenner, legendary market master Charles Nenner just said this week. He said, at some point, the money printing just stops working. It just won't work. It's done. So, anyway, that is the way I see it. Thank you so much for supporting USA Watchdog with all your comments and your donations. I really appreciate it. Go out and have a nice weekend, and always remember, fear not.